During our January visit, we had been joined by Tom Benevento of Trees for Life and Todd Bauer, two very experienced arboriculturists. Tom and Todd came to meet the women of El Grupo Femenino and assess whether their land would be appropriate for a Trees for Life orchard, called a forest garden. They also needed to know whether the women would take care of the trees and plants once the forest garden was installed. After evaluating the land, they decided that a forest garden would work there. They gave the women a thorough explanation of what would be involved in care of the orchard and time to think about whether this was something that they wanted to take on. The women, as usual, were enthusiastic about the project, so Tom and Todd gave them some instructions on how to prepare the property for the forest garden and agreed to come back in May to help them make it a reality. The women had done an excellent job of preparing the property and were excited to begin the planting when we arrived in May. Tom and Todd and Tom's nephew Kellen arrived a few days after us, and the work began in earnest. It was delightful to see the women and their husbands and children working side by side, digging holes for the trees, carrying and planting the trees, making pathways through the orchard. It was the first time we had even seen some of the husbands. A wide variety of fruit-bearing trees were planted, including banana, platano, mango, orange, lemon, yucca, and papaya, as well as sugarcane and pineapple plants. Some of the plants would begin producing fruit in just 9 months, while others would take 6 years. But the women of El Grupo understood that this forest garden could change their lives, the lives of their families, and most likely those of the entire village. When the planting was over, a few days of rest would have been welcome. But El Grupo had another job to do. A 2-day training session for health promoters was going to be held at the women's meeting space, the beautiful Galera, with the women using their recently acquired catering skills to provide all the meals. As always, the ladies did a great job, and Pro Paten, the teaching organization, was so pleased that they asked El Grupo whether they would be willing to host some of their future training sessions. The sewing machines that had been delivered in January had not been idle. A group of 4 women had really taken to this occupation and were very pleased to receive an order for a dozen kurtas, the white pants and shirts worn by yogis. And despite all of their other obligations, the sewing group completed their first sewing contract before we left. Sharing the abundance is one of the main themes of Global Coalition for Peace, one we strive to manifest in all of our work. To that end, we asked the women of El Grupo to share their gardening knowledge and skills with other members of the community. In groups of 2 or 3, they went to friends and family members and gifted them with a garden. How it made our hearts sing to see the perfect gardens that our ladies had made. One woman's brother was so pleased with the garden made for his wife and children that he hugged his sister for the first time in many years.